President Trump in far better shape, just like, well, I think most Americans knew, in far better shape for 2020 than recent polling suggests on the part of the national left-wing media, certainly. New models tonight from Moody's Analytics. And Moody's, one of the most accurate, and these models amongst the most accurate, show President Trump actually cruising to re-election in 2020. Moody's basing its projections on how consumers feel about their own financial situation. Historic gains in the stock market during the president's tenure, the prospects of employment in this country, and unemployment, which has fallen to a 50-year low. All three of Moody's models show President Trump winning between 289 and 351 electoral votes. All of this, by the way, built on, well, amongst other evidence, the median income for an average income family gaining more than under President Trump, $5,000 in just over, well, almost 3 years. That's, by the way, as you might note, about five times what happened under Obama. Well, you don't even think about the factor for George W. Bush. Both, of course, had 8 years in office. And joining us tonight, former Reagan White House political director, Fox Business political analyst, the savant himself, Ed Rollins.
Thank you.
I mean, it's fascinating to see the way some of the, and I'm going to turn, before we get to the Democrats, I want to turn to the rhinos in the Republican Party and the arrogant, absolutely obnoxious attitudes that many of them are taking. With this president, 94% of Republicans supporting. You're looking at the Moody's Analytics model, which has been amazing in its accuracy. And then we have to, you know, on top of everything else, he has to put up with a bunch of recalcitrant rhinos.
Most of them weren't for the president at the beginning, and at the end of the day,
poor darlings.
And at the end of the day, they all think of themselves as independent and doing their own thing.
Yeah. Until it becomes time for elections, and
Absolutely.
They want that RNC money, they want that Senate money, they want donor money.
As I've said repeatedly, I mean, no modern president or any president has ever had that kind of approval among his party. It's his party. It's no one else's party. There's not even going to be a primary against him. These idiots that are going to try and run against him are fools. So it's his party. It's his foreign policy. The economic policy is very strong. And what I think Moody's projects is that the economy is strong and will be strong in the election. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like to wait.
They're projecting he's going to win based on where the economy is now.
That's correct. And I hope that economy holds, and there's no reason for it not to. I'm old-fashioned. I always kind of like to wait for the voters to vote. But my sense is there's no reason for them to be not excited about this election. It's going to be a closer election because of the animosity that the president's received for the last 2 years. But the advantage is he's going to have a very weak opponent.
Yeah, well, that's one advantage. The other is he's got a very strong economy. He's also got strong support among his base. And if you want to talk about what else he's got strong enthusiasm for him as president of the United States. And you look at the turnout. You know, you notice the national left-wing media doesn't talk about that those 50,000 inside and outside in his previous rally. The turnout, it's just
they never talk about
extraordinary.
There was another 200,000 people that went online.
Have you ever seen anything close to it in your entire political life?
No. I traveled.
Of course not.
I traveled there with Ronald Reagan, who was a very popular president, and we had 50,000 a couple times, but we never had those kinds of audiences repeatedly. So
it's just insane. It's amazing. I want to go to Marco Rubio today, talking about these trade talks that look like there's a lot to be desired here on the phase one. We're going to take it up in a minute with Dr. Michael Pillsbury as well, one of the smartest people. Well, we don't have time for it. Rubio saying basically we condemn our nation if we go along with the Chinese. We condemn our nation to a future in which China sets the rules for our economy, our workers, and our culture. That's what he thinks is at stake.
Well, what I think is China is going to be a competitor for us for a long time, and only by the policies of the president and a strong trade deal and a strong economy are we going to be able to compete.
Yep. This president making all the difference in the world. Ed Rollins, you always make a great difference on this show. We thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ed Rollins, we're coming right back with Dr. Michael Pillsbury. Stay with us. The German government announcing it will not ban Huawei from its 5G network. This despite warnings and threats from both the United States and the European Union. Germany laying out security requirements for the Chinese telecom to supply the German 5G network, including proof that Huawei can be trusted. A new report finds a coordinated cyber espionage campaign helped China steal intellectual property from both U.S. and European aerospace companies. The multi-year effort helped further the development of China's C919 twin-jet aircraft. It was designed to compete with similar aircraft from Airbus and Boeing. Boy, that does look like, well, a wonderful adaptation. The report adds the operation saved China billions and billions of dollars. They just copied the technical details of the components that were eventually used to build the airplane. Well, why don't we steal things? Why is it just the Chinese? Shouldn't we wise up too? Well, to answer that question and others, Dr. Michael Pillsbury joins us, Director of the Center for Chinese Strategy at the Hudson Institute. And Michael, it's great to see you. And I have to say, the Chinese, they certainly understand how to, that looks like the height of efficiency and productivity, just to steal what you need.
Yes, I'm afraid they've got a better strategy, Lou.
You do?
I think they've got a better strategy than we do.
Oh, yeah, I think they do as well. And I'm wondering seriously about this latest, what appears to be an outright reversal of what many, including the president himself, had taken as a pledge for $40 to $50 billion in agricultural products and a phase one. Just needed paper, said Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary. Looks like it needs a lot more than that.
Well, I think that's right. It is only phase one, so phase two could be a lot more confrontational when the big issues have been left and the issue of enforcement isn't settled yet.
I'm not much of a negotiator, so I'm looking to you for some insight. At what point do you decide, if you lead a nation or lead a company, that someone is just unworthy of your trust, and that it's simply a waste of time, and that perhaps you should reconsider?
Well, a lot further down the road than we are now. There's still elements of cooperation between the U.S. and China. They support us on Iran, for example, at least in principle. They support us to some degree on North Korea. There's some interest in nuclear arms control talks with them. They deny all the allegations that were made against them a year and a half ago. They claim they never engage in intellectual property theft. So on the basis of that, at least they're not trying to stick their finger in our eye and say, you know, we're going to dominate you for sure, you better learn to like it.
Well, how would you infer what President Xi has said over the past year? How would you interpret what admirals and generals of the PLA have said about the United States destroying our carriers, ultimately dominating the world, said President Xi?
Well, they're getting tougher and tougher and more nasty. What's happening also is the reformers on whom we were counting. It's in Bob Lighthizer testimony last year. The reformers are more and more getting put in jail or otherwise neutralized. There was a very famous
This is not a good sign for reform, is it?
No. A very famous economist in China given an award by the Cato Institute, as a matter of fact.
Right.
The very day he got the award, they shut down his think tank and shut down his website.
Well, I can see why everybody's very ebullient about the prospects for succeeding with a deal with China. My gosh, that's just going swimmingly, and they've got a million folks sitting in concentration camps and threatening. Xi today talking about crushing bones. It got to be rather graphic. I mean, I have to tell you, just as a citizen, because that's all I am, I don't like the way they talk, and I sure don't like it even a little bit.
Well, we're in a new approach. The president, the first year, had Wilbur Ross in charge, and the idea was to have a great deal of investment by China in our companies. The second year, as Bob Lighthizer was in charge, it was going to be the year of negotiation. I think we've moved now into the year of Steve Mnuchin in charge. And Steve has succeeded in getting the investment bankers of America open access to China. This is one of the biggest breakthroughs on Friday. He may succeed.
Wait a minute. It's
Yes.
a breakthrough? Or is it a pretend breakthrough? Because nothing else that was ostensibly agreed to is for real. Because
No,
they
this
mean
is-
to
this is a
lift all,
breakthrough.
they mean for us to lift all of our tariffs, which are working splendidly,
Right.
of course.
That's their position, to lift all the tariffs.
Yeah.
If you look at a Wall Street Journal article back in January of this year by Bob Davis and Ling Wei, they quote Steve Mnuchin saying the solution is going to be to lift the tariffs. So Steve tends to agree with the Chinese. Lifting the tariffs is the way forward. But I'm praising Mnuchin. He for sure has opened up the Chinese market to American investment banks. That was announced about a month ago. The Chinese are making it happen. Our investment bankers, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and so forth, they're thrilled by this. However,
So we got two
it doesn't
winners.
help.
We got investment bankers and we've got farmers.
Yes, that's-
You're talking to a populist here. I'm not thrilled about this right now.
Well, you shouldn't be thrilled. You shouldn't be thrilled. The tactic here is to postpone the harder issues until phase 2. But phase 1 isn't even locked up yet, and it could
Yeah.
explode in our faces. By the way, I'm for more pressure. I made it very clear in my memo about a month ago. We need to have a lot more pressure on China to get serious concessions. But that's not the approach Secretary Mnuchin's taking it for the present.
Well, I hope that memo is, a live wire sitting on the desk of the president. I just, for the life of me, Mike, I just can't, in all seriousness, I cannot comprehend accepting the insult, watching twice China renege. This is an insult to the president. It's an insult to the United States. And I really don't give a damn about a single investment banker in this country having open access to China, because I hate to think what, if you will forgive the expression, the quid pro quo might be.
Just to defend the president for a second, in that press conference on Friday, you'll notice quite a few times he would not answer the question himself. He would turn to Steve Mnuchin. So this is very much Steve Mnuchin's turn at the bat, in my view.
Well, you don't have to defend the president ever with me. I support this president enthusiastically, as I know you do, and
I
as
do. He seems to believe in delegating things, though, to a lead cabinet person for a while.
Right.
Then if it doesn't work, he picks someone else.
Well, there's an old saying, isn't there? Personnel is
what's that?
policy.
Yes, very much.
Michael, great to have you with us. We appreciate it as always.
Thanks, sir.
Instructive. Thank you, sir. We're coming right back. Former Special Assistant to the President, Kelly Sadler, joins us. We'll be right back.